And now a big welcome to our next presenting startup, Empatica, with their novel AI-enabled wearables for continuous health monitoring and research. Welcome to stage, David Crowley.
Before I start, just hands up. Has anyone got a wearable like a smartwatch, a smart ring, anything to collect data? Great. So what we do is we have wearable devices that are used to collect data, but mainly for clinical trials and clinical research. And as one of the last speakers before your lunch, I very much understand my role here, so I will keep this short and sweet. So I am David Crowley. I work in the Pharma partnerships team. It's my job to help with a lot of our industry partners to understand how to use wearables and how to use digital data from these wearables in how they conduct clinical trials and clinical research. So Empatica as a company, we were co-founded in 2014 by Professor Rosalind Picard of MIT, who is still our Chief Scientific Officer today. And we are based just across the river in Boston. So we haven't moved too far, but we also have locations in Milan, Italy, and Seoul in Korea. We are a full stack company. So everything that we do, from the wearable technology to the different digital biomarkers and algorithms, are all developed in-house. And really, our focus is to create specific digital biomarkers and specific wearables to capture different measures as you go through a clinical trial. We primarily work in the kind of clinical research and clinical trial space. We work with a lot of top 20 pharma companies, supporting over 120 trials to date, and over 100,000 people have worn different variations of our products. So when we talk about clinical trials today, there are obviously challenges associated with clinical trials. One of the most ones that we talk about is subjectiveness. So a lot of clinical trials are based on different patient-reported outcomes, which can be hugely beneficial in terms of getting a patient's perception and a patient's measure of a disease state, but it does lack a certain objectiveness. So these measures can be subject to different recall bias, how a patient is feeling on a certain day. Intermittent monitoring comes into place where you may be only seeing a patient once a month. So depending on how that week has gone for them, that can influence their responses. It's obviously costly to bring participants, patients into a clinical trial site to monitor them. And then, from the participant aspect, it is burdensome to travel to different places, to travel on site and have different tests in place. So what we've designed is the Empatica health monitoring platform, and essentially that is there to remotely monitor patients and capture this data in a more objective manner in a continuous fashion. So this is the wearable itself that's part of this platform. Anyone who's looking can see I'm wearing one right here, and we have a few more outside. And essentially, you can capture over 300 different digital measures using this quite neatly designed and quite unobtrusive watch. There are 5 different sensors on board. Depending on what a company is looking to measure, we do tend to tweak those sensors in different frequencies. We do have kind of accelerometer, gyroscope, skin temperature, pretty standard. As you go towards the bottom, we have more customized sensors. Ventral EDA, which I'll be talking about in a minute, looks at electrodermal activity. So that looks at your galvanic skin response. Very good at detecting kind of periods of excitation or stress. And then optical PPG is what you may be familiar with in certain kind of health monitoring devices that look at pulse rate variability, respiration rate, blood oxygen saturation. So this is the flow of data. Again, just to show you how the whole platform works. Obviously, we start with the wearable device, but then it transfers to an app and goes up into a centralized location in the cloud. Importantly, a participant doesn't really need to do anything on this, which is great. They just put it on and it collects this data continuously. And researchers and sponsors are able to capture this data centrally in one location. So in terms of our use case and how this can be used, we've done a lot of research in clinical trials and clinical research, not all published, but I have chosen one that is publicly available. We're currently working with the US Department of Defense to look at post-traumatic stress disorder monitoring. I think 7% of veterans will develop PTSD in their lifetime. That percentage goes even higher when you look at more recent deployments and combat zones. So what we're working with the DoD is to have continuous monitoring using our devices, and looking at different measures to try and predict a novel digital biomarker to either monitor disease progression or predict risk factors of developing PTSD in these populations. So last but not least, thank you very much. In terms of partnership, As I said, we primarily work in the clinical research and clinical trial space. So if you are interested in incorporating wearables into your trial, a lot of the wearable use is in CNS disorders, but we are therapeutic area agnostic. We work across metabolic disorders, across cardiology, obesity, oncology. So if you're ever interested in using this technology, please do come and talk to us. I'll be outside. And yeah, it's good to meet you all. Thank you.